The third evidence is this: Jesus' fulfillment of prophecy. You understand that the Old Testament is full of these ancient predictions that predicted that the Messiah would do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And Jesus fulfilled what the Old Testament predicted, prophesied he would do. Now you may think, oh, Keenan, that's cool. But there's probably lots of people who have fulfilled the prophecies. They're just not as famous as Jesus, so we don't know about them. The probability is probably easy for someone to fulfill these prophecies. Greater minds than you have thought the same thing and done the math. There was a doctor by the name of Peter Stoner who was a professor of mathematics and science. He died in the year 1980, and he wrote a book before he died called Science Speaks. This is where this information comes from. And he wanted to figure out what is the mathematical probability of one man being able to fulfill any given number of Old Testament messianic, pertaining to the Messiah, prophecies. What's the mathematical probability? So all of a sudden, Peter Stoner gets a group of students together. He gets 600 undergrad and graduate level students together, and they begin to run the numbers. And so they go, hey, let's start low. Let's do 8 prophecies. What's the mathematical probability of one man being able to fulfill only 8 Old Testament messianic prophecies? So they run the numbers, and the numbers blow their minds. They come away with the fact that mathematically, for one person to fulfill 8 Old Testament prophecies, the probability of that is 1 in 100 million billion. Long odds. 1 in 100 million billion. The equivalent of this, just so you can wrap your mind around this kind of number, would be as if I took a 1-inch square piece of tile, and on the back of it, I place a gold star. And then I have quite a few other tiles. So all of a sudden I go, you know what? We're going to take these tiles, these 1-inch square piece of tiles, and we're going to tile this entire auditorium. And then after we get done with the auditorium, we're like, you know what? We still got some tile. Let's tile the whole building. And then after we get done with the building, we're like, you know what? We still got more tile. Let's tile all of San Angelo. And then we get done with San Angelo, and we're like, oh, dang, we still got a lot more tile. Let's tile all of North America. And then we get done with North America, and we still have more tile. So then we go into South America. And then we get done with South America, and we have to go tile Africa. And then we get done with Africa, and we got to go tile Europe. And then we get done with Europe, and then we have to go tile Asia. And then we have to tile India. And then we tile Australia. And then we got to go buy a parka because it's going to be cold when we have to tile Antarctica. You literally tile the entire planet in 1-inch square pieces of tile. And on the back of one of those tiles is a gold star. And then I come up to you and I say, hey, I'll fund the whole project. I'll buy you as many planes as you need. I'll get you as many rental cars as you need to use. You can survey the whole earth looking at all the tiles. But you can only bend down, grab, and turn over one. And it better be the one I put the gold star on the bottom of. That is the mathematical probability of one man being able to fulfill 8 Old Testament prophecies. But then Peter Stoner says, why would we stop at 8? Let's go to 48, just for kicks and giggles. Let's go to 48. So then they begin to run the numbers on what would it be for a man to fulfill 48. And the numbers come back that for one man to fulfill 48 Old Testament prophecies, it is 1 in 1 trillion, 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 trillion. You literally have to say trillion 13 times. Again, long odds. The equivalent of this would be as if I got one atom and I spray painted it gold. And then I stuck that one atom in a space the equivalent to 1 trillion, 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 billion times the size of our universe. And then all of a sudden I come and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I have a spaceship. I'll give you as much rocket fuel as you want. You can go and survey this space that is 1 trillion, 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 billion times the size of our universe. And you can go anywhere you want, but you can only open your porthole once. And you can only extend your tweezers one time and pull in one atom. And it better be the one I spray painted gold. This is the mathematical probability of one man being able to fulfill 48 Old Testament prophecies. Can I tell you right now? Jesus didn't just fulfill 8. And he didn't just fulfill 48. Can I tell you how many prophecies Jesus fulfilled? Over 300. Jesus fulfilled, I think the number is somewhere like 324 Old Testament messianic prophecies. Jesus did it. There's not an actual illustration I can conjure up to equate to what Jesus actually did. I can't make matter small enough and think of a space large enough to send you excavating to actually equate to what Jesus did. It's unfathomable. It's unimaginable, but Jesus did it. He really was born of a virgin. He really was born in the town called Bethlehem. He really did come riding in on a donkey. He really was betrayed by a close friend. He really was sold for 30 pieces of silver. He really did die having no bone broken, and he really did die having his hands and his feet pierced. Can I tell you when that prediction was made that the Messiah would die with his hands and feet pierced, crucifixion hadn't been invented. No one had ever seen anyone die with their hands and their feet pierced. But yet the Spirit of God came over a man named David in Psalm 22, and he told him the Messiah is going to come and he'll die with his hands and feet pierced. Jesus fulfilled Old Testament prophecy.